Mr. Danny Murphy, good morning, mate. Broadcasting from home, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Yeah, good morning, chaps. How are you?
Good, good. Danny, good to have you on board. I watched you yesterday on the Beeb at a pretty chilly Stamford Bridge, so you were there and you were working on Chelsea against Luton. I take it, Danny, at that time there was nothing to suggest yesterday that what we might be talking about this morning was actually in the pipeline, that Frank might be out of job today.
Not really. I mean, we touched on it in the conversation. I felt that if they were to lose that game against Luton, then knowing Chelsea, maybe that would be the trigger. But I don't think if this decision is what we're hearing, if it's going to be correct, I don't think it's based on the Luton performance, obviously, because they won the game and quite comfortably. But I am surprised. I thought that he'd get a bit longer. I'm disappointed for him and his staff. I know them. It's been a difficult month or two for them.
Yeah.
But every other big club in the Premier League's had difficult times in this unique season. It's hard integrating new players. I don't know if all of those new players were actually his. That's a topic I'm sure we'll come on to. But yeah, it's my first impression or first reaction is one of disappointment and sadness for him, because I like Frank. I think he's a good guy and I think he's a good manager.
Oh, he sure is. He's a good guy, but certainly when results don't go your way and you've got somebody like Abramovich at the top of the house, yep. Simon, patience might wear a bit thin. What do we know? We know this morning, courtesy of Matt Law, the football news correspondent of The Telegraph, that Lampard could be sacked sometime today. Certainly in the next 24 hours. Confirmation could come as soon as today. Chelsea players have reportedly been told that not to report, not to show up at the training ground until this afternoon. And of course, Matt Law was telling us that Lampard had not sought any reassurances over his future. He was confident he could find a solution to Chelsea's current predicament. So certainly nothing to suggest that this could be a day that will not work out in Frank's favour. Now we're hearing in the last few moments, Simon, that Sky Germany is reporting at this stage, this Monday morning, that former Dortmund and PSG boss Thomas Tuchel is set to be appointed as Chelsea manager. So this is what happens, isn't it? This is what happens. One thing leads to another.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, I don't actually see the point of given the nature. Not because I made a comment last week about Frank Lampard will exceed Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I put that to one side. I'm sure I'll have my moment in the sun with lots of people making fun of that particular observation. I don't see the point of appointing Frank Lampard. He's not a manager. He's learning to be a manager. He had a year at Derby. He was learning his trade. And I don't see the point of having ever made the appointment of after a year, 18 months in the job, where at one point he had a very. I know I pushed back on the transfer embargo and think that it was a bit of a non-event because they had other players like Pulisic that were pre-signed. Yeah. But you've got into a world of football at this moment in time where everything is up. Look, it's through the looking glass to some extent, and Lampard is an apprentice. They always knew that he was going to be learning his trade on their time, and I don't understand the point of 5 months, 6 months into a new season, a very strange season across the pantheon of football, with a £230 million set of investment that was always going to take an element of time to get the ideals right behind it. I don't understand the point of this now. By all means, if at the end of this season, Chelsea didn't qualify for Europe, didn't punch their weight, and at the end of the season you look at it and go, that's 2 years, son. You've had 2 years, you're not cutting it out. But to make the decision now, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, you say now, Simon, it begs the question, Danny, when did they make this decision? If the decision has already been made, Danny, when do you think it would have been made? As you rightly say, the Luton situation maybe didn't have anything to do with it yesterday. Going into that one, maybe the decision had already been made before that.
Well, it stands to reason that they'd be trying to get their ducks in a row, wouldn't they, in terms of a replacement? There's no point getting rid of a manager if you haven't got someone else coming in who's capable or you think is going to be able to do the job better. So I would imagine that until they got the go-ahead or the confirmation from whoever they're going to get in, they wouldn't push the button. But I agree with Simon's sentiments completely. You know, you give somebody the job, knowing that they're learning their trade and knowing that it's going to take a little bit of a rebuild at Chelsea to be competitive, and then all of a sudden, you know, you've got this situation now where they're throwing him out the door. But I think there's lots of different opinions on certain things he has done well and hasn't done well. There is You know, there was a little bit of talk yesterday around of certain senior players who have been upset, Rudiger being one of them, who's got back in the team recently, actually. Kovacic, another, who's been told he can leave, apparently, and things like this. So, I don't know. You never know. I don't know if Simon's been in a position before. I certainly have, where a group of senior players have gone to the hierarchy to express their discontent. I don't know if there's been any of that going on. I think the biggest problem is that the best players he signed, the new players he signed, I should say, haven't all been fit continually. Yeah. And they haven't yet hit the ground running completely. Ziyech did when he first got fit, and then he got injured again, who's probably the star man. So he's had a bit of misfortune in that respect. But there's always things going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, in terms of some players thinking they've got the autonomy to go and have conversations about what a manager is and isn't doing.
Yeah. Certainly, we've seen this happen before with Abramovich, Simon. He seems to go for high-profile, big-name managers in the past. We've had Scolari through the door. Ancelotti's been there. Hiddink came into firefight for a while. We know that this is what he does.
Yeah, and listen, you know, I'm not clamouring around supporting Frank Lampard because I made an observation about where I think his career path will go in relation to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, or clamouring around the fact that he's a nice bloke. But I'm looking at the project and looking at the observation of the fact that he was brought in to do a job. When you bring in somebody of great repute, that's a bona fide, dialed-in, experienced manager, and they don't do their job, then this is the territory where they get the sack. When you brought somebody in, knowing that their only reference point is that they made a wonderful contribution to a very successful Chelsea side, speak very well, and presided over a moderately successful season at Derby, you must be looking at this saying, well, I'm going to give you a couple of years to be able to get yourself going. Yeah. Now, of course, Danny's absolutely right. This decision wasn't made yesterday. This decision was made maybe a week, 10 days ago, when they spoke to Thomas Tuchel, got an indication that perhaps he'll be interested in the job, and started to work out the parameters of what that looked like.
Sure.
And and so from my point of view, looking at the notion that Frank Lampard was ever in a position to deliver the outcome, there must be an expectation, because it isn't Roman Abramovich that will be making these decisions. It will be the line of management that Roman Abramovich has been put into place. Yeah. Whether it be Bruce Butt or whoever else they've got there, and sit there going, what do you think about about Lampard? Where's he going? Is the direction of travel looking vaguely like we're going in the right direction? And clearly they must think no.